Hi, welcome to the Urban Outdoorsman SoCal video. My name is Danny Milton, and today we're going to be balancing the DJI Ronin SC. I bought this gimbal about 2 weeks ago, and I've already done a video on it comparing it to the Webuild Lab. Today, I'm going to be showing you guys how I balanced it using 3 different setups. The first setup, I have the camera, the lens, and the Rode Video Micro on it. Another setup I'm going to do is just the camera and the lens by itself, and then the third setup I'm going to show you is with everything on it, the lens, the cage, and the focus motor, just to show you that you can balance this camera with all these different weight combinations and it's still going to work great. One other thing I want to let you know about today's video is I only have one real camera. That's my Sony a6400. That's what I'm recording on right now. So obviously, to show you how I balance that camera on this gimbal, it has to be on the gimbal. And the only other camera that I have is my GoPro Hero 7. So most of the video shot for this video is going to be on that GoPro 7, so I apologize. You know, it's not going to be quite as clear. The sound is going to be just a little bit different. And when I do some close-ups, the image is going to be a little bit blurry. So that's why there's a little bit less quality in the footage. I apologize for that. Hopefully I'll be getting another camera pretty soon. Just a quick look at what I've got on the gimbal here. Obviously it's the Sony a6400. This is the Sony PZ, the power zoom lens, the 18-105 constant f4. I have the each rig. It's kind of a small rig knockoff here. On the side here, this is actually the bar that is used to mount the focus motor. Let's see if we can slide that around here. So this bar right here typically isn't part of the rig, but what I'm also going to do is I'm going to set up the focus motor and do a separate balancing of that. I'm not going to show you that balancing. I'm just going to show you after I've balanced it what it looks like, and it is possible to have all of this stuff on here, the cage, the Rode Video Micro, and the focus motor with this relatively large lens, this 18-105, and show you that it will all balance. It will all come out excellent when the DJI app measures it, and it show you that it will work. You can see here that our balance is obviously way off. The camera's sitting too far back. So what I will tell you is that you want to set up your camera exactly the way you're going to be using it. So you can see right now I have the lens hood on. I have the lens cap off. You need to take the lens cap off because if you balance the camera with the lens cap on, that's adding more weight to the front. So then when you go to use this in the field and you take off that lens cap, the balance isn't going to be true. It's going to be off a little bit by that little amount of weight. Now you can see I've got the each rig camera cage on here. I've got my Rode Video Micro attached to the top of the camera, plugged into the side. I have the cable going from the DJI Ronin right here, coming up the side and plugged into the side of my camera. That way you can use the remote button on the Ronin itself to start and stop recording. So what you want to do is just slowly push the camera back or forwards until you get that nice level balance right there. Sometimes it's literally like less than a millimeter that you're moving it to get it balanced just right. That looks pretty good there. So the first thing we're going to do is just lightly hold the camera in that place and tighten this bottom screw. Now that screw is tightened, what we need to do is tighten this set screw right here. This little set screw is going to help you to, when you take this camera off the mount, you're going to slide the base to this point to where the set screw touches this part of the mount right here. That way you know your camera is going to be balanced front to back using that set screw. So you can see the camera sitting still. Now as soon as we touch it a little bit, you're going to see it's going to fall. You don't want it to fall like that. And the way we're going to change that is now we need to adjust this part of the arm so that the weight is centered up and down. What we're going to do now is I'm going to loosen this all the way up, and you can see it falls, just because of weight, it falls all the way down. And obviously right there, you don't want it swinging back and forth. Once your camera is perfectly balanced, you should be able to move it into any position and it will stay right there. And if we move it all the way up, obviously, if I tighten this up, you can see it's very unbalanced because now the weight is too high. So I'm looking at this from the back, so I can't see the numbers, and I can't cheat because I know about where it's supposed to be. So let's try somewhere right there in the middle. I'll show you the numbers after I'm done balancing. You can see the marked numbers here. It's like a little kind of millimeter ruler. See, so that's a little bit better, but it's still falling. So I think we need to go a little bit higher. Let's move this up maybe a couple millimeters. Tighten this arm back up. And you can see now, letting go, the camera is still balanced front to back. Now as soon as we move this, oh, it's still falling a little bit. Okay. Oh, that's close. See how I tilted it? It's like at a 45-degree angle and it's not moving at all. Let's do a full, well, I can't do a full 90 because the only problem with using this microphone on here is that once it tilts too far back, it's actually going to hit this back arm. So that's why I would say not to use this type of microphone on the camera itself, because you're not going to be able to get the camera completely vertical. But I just did it to show you that you can balance it with this on there. So let's see, let's turn you forward a little bit. Got you, that's pretty good. See, we'll get just before the microphone touches the back motor. It's not bad. Still falling a little bit forward though. So I think we need to go just a tiny bit lower. Let's try that. See, so now we're good. We went just about a millimeter lower. Now when it's tilted forward, it's not moving at all. I mean, it's going to move just the tiniest little bit, but we're good there. We're good there. And we're good like that. So now we're balanced front to back, and the swing arm is balanced, this part here. So the third thing we have to do is find our balance from left to right. Now that we have our balance front to back and our swing arm is good, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this around so you can see it. We're going to lock this arm, right? So now the front to back isn't moving at all. And we're going to unlock this motor here. And oh, you can see it's way too heavy on the left-hand side. We're going to have to slide this over. So spin you around so you can see the numbers here. You're going to see right underneath this plate the markings right here. These are all millimeters. So we're all the way over on the left-hand side right now to the number 4. It's way too far to the left because you can see as soon as I let go, the camera's falling to that side. So we need to move all of the weight. We need to shift the weight this direction. So we have to unlock this. We're going to slide. You can hear there's little clicks. We're going to slide the mounting and the camera over until we get it to balance side to side. This is the only kind of hard part about balancing this camera, is that these little clicks, they're kind of difficult. You try to make it click over 1 millimeter and it clicks over like 2 or 3. So we're getting close. That seems to be pretty good right there. What are we at? We're right above the 2. So now, not holding the camera, we are locked in side to side. So let's tighten up this bottom screw here, and we're going to see how well that's balanced. Because now you need to check the balance this way. That's actually pretty good. We're going to come up here, check it like that. There's a little bit of a fall there. There's a little bit of a rotation there. If we go completely vertical, there's a little bit of a fall off. If I go just before vertical, it seems to be fine. If I get it straight up 90, it starts to fall off a little bit. Let's try all the way down here. That one's off as well. So what that's telling me is our side to side is a little bit off, but also when you're balancing this back motor, you do have to adjust this part as well. Just because if it's too high or too low, you need to, it will affect that. Now, right now, it's actually not bad. I know that these motors and this software will kind of accept that little amount of motion as good and will balance the camera just fine. It's actually pretty good, like right about there. Okay, so we've got the first two motors balanced, so we're gonna come back here. We're gonna lock that motor. The last thing we have to do is unlock this one and check the side balance. So pick up the gimbal. You're gonna hold it at a 90-degree angle and check the camera. See, that's not good. Obviously, if it's face down, it's not gonna rotate, but from here and from here, it's falling off. So what we need to do is slide this arm back a little bit. So let's try just kind of a give and take, because it's a little bit harder to adjust this one while it's actually there. Now you can see I've got the gimbal, we're on a 90-degree angle, and the camera's balanced relatively good right there. Face down, we're not going to check. Right there, facing the camera, it's good. Vertical is good as well. So I got pretty lucky with that spot that I chose right there. So we're going to lock up all of these, make sure all of our little twist lock things are locked up. Now we're going to unlock all of the motors. And wherever we put the gimbal, it should stay relatively still. So here's just a quick look at our gimbal with the camera off. I'm going to zoom in on each part so you can see where our settings were. I'm going to list all of these settings. So that's our front to back. You can see. Then up here on the swing arm, let's turn this a little bit. That's where we are there. And then down here on the bottom, it's about as close as I can get. That's where our settings are. Like I said, I'm going to list these all on the screen, so if you want to copy this setup, you can use these numbers to get you pretty close to where you need to be. You might need to adjust it just a little bit. Okay, so here's our setup with just the camera and the lens. You can see you have the additional base plate on there because the lens is larger than the body itself. We've got one screw mounting the base plate to the camera and then two screws mounting the mounting plate to the base plate. This is the way I like to run the setup just because it makes the mounting plate a little bit more stable. Now the only problem with that is because the lens is so much heavier than the body itself, I have the camera slid as far back as possible on the actual mounting plate. And the problem with that, as you can see here, is when it's slid all the way back, it's going to hit that rear motor. So that is kind of a big problem as far as this setup goes. And you can see that even with the mounting plate slid all the way back, the camera is still too front heavy to balance properly. So what we've done here is slid the mounting plate a little bit farther forward on that riser plate and only used one screw. Now what that's going to do is that's going to move the weight farther back and make it possible to balance the camera. You can see here now that the mounting plate is probably about a ½ inch farther back on the part of the gimbal, and we have plenty of clearance in the back. You can see that that bottom mounting plate is much farther forward than it was before. And now with the camera properly mounted, you can see that it will balance front to back, no problem, and we can move forward balancing the rest of the gimbal motors.
Okay, so here's my camera set up the way I'm going to be using it on a daily basis. Obviously, I've got the a6400. I've got the 18 to 105 f4. Got the lens hood on the front. You can see here we've got the focus motor. And this is the way I chose to set it up, is the arm right here that holds the bar. I push it all the way in instead of having it a little bit sticking a little bit farther out. And what I did is this main part right here, which is where everything plugs into, this is what plugs into the gimbal, goes back here, and then comes around and plugs into the focus motor. What I did was I put a little piece of double-sided tape in there, and then I wrapped a zip tie. You can see it coming right here through here. Put a zip tie through that unit and wrapped it around the focus motor so it'll stay right there. I've got all the wires kind of, tucked around that bar coming out so they're not hanging all over the place. You can see the wire coming from it going into my camera here. And then what I put down here on the bottom is, instead of having the normal screw, is I put this thumb screw in. So this is the only camera that I have. So when I want to use the camera just as a camera, I can just undo this thumb screw, take this whole unit off, take off the focus ring little piece here, and I have a normal camera. If I didn't have this thumb screw here, I would have to, find whichever Allen wrench, unscrew it, take all its stuff off, in the field, which would be kind of a pain in the butt. But with this thumb screw here, I could take it off and have a normal looking camera, and it'll fit in my bag that way as well, a little bit better, a little bit quicker. So after I set this camera up like this, I obviously rebalanced all the motors. Everything came out excellent. All three motors came out excellent. And then I did the motor tuning, and I'll put that up on the screen to show you the difference between how much stronger the motors are going to tune with this setup as compared to just the camera and the lens by itself. It does, obviously it needs to be a little bit stronger, the motor settings, because it has more weight on it. But everything works fine. I set it up, put it through all three modes, the pan, follow, tilt, and the 360 mode. Everything works fine, no jitters or anything like that. So quickly, this is the gimbal with the camera off. You can see here, this setting is here. I'll put what number that is on the screen in case you can't see it. We've got the tilt motor set to there. That looks like it's about just a bit below 29. And then the pan motor is set to about 17 and a half.
Okay, thanks for watching today's video. Hopefully it was helpful to you. I wanted to go through the full process. I know this was a really long video, but I wanted to go through the full process of showing, people out there how to balance this start to finish. Most of the time when you see someone balance this gimbal, this camera combination on this gimbal, they kind of fast forward through it and you really don't know or learn how to do it. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video. The second is because I wanted to show everybody out there that you can put a bunch of different combinations of, the focus motor and microphones and different weight combinations on this gimbal, and it'll still be easy to balance. It'll still work perfectly. You won't get any jitters or anything like that. There's been a lot of negative reviews about this gimbal, and like I said, I've had it for a couple of weeks and it's been working out great for me. Okay, so please do all that fun stuff to help me out. Please like, share, comment, and definitely subscribe to the channel. That's the biggest way to help me out. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the next video.